بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Now, so far in the Janazah course, we have looked at Sakaratul Maut, i.e. the person when he's about to pass away, the pangs of death, the difficulty he goes through, and what a person should do in that situation. Thereafter, we went on to look at the ghusl section of Janazah, how to bathe and give the deceased a ghusl. And the third thing we went on to look at in last week's lesson was with regards to the kafan and the shrouding of the deceased. Now, in this week's lesson, we are going to move on to the fourth part of the Janazah course, and that is regarding the Janazah Salah and the namaz itself. And there are four main parts which we are going to look at of the Janazah Salah. Firstly, the status of the Janazah Salah in terms of what is the hukum, what is the ruling of praying Janazah over the deceased. The second point is regarding the time of Janazah Salah. So is there a particular time when Janazah Salah is allowed, when Janazah Namaz is haram? The prerequisites for Janazah Salah, what are the conditions? And lastly, the method of performing Janazah Salah and Janazah Namaz. Now, the first point, the status of the Janazah Salah, meaning that what is the hukum of praying Janazah Salah. Now, it's mentioned there that it is farz-e-kifaya to pray Janazah Namaz over the deceased. And this word farz-e-kifaya we looked at before. Farz-e-kifaya basically means that it's not necessary for every single individual in that community to pray the Janazah Salah. However, as long as some people from that community pray the Janazah, then the obligation would be fulfilled on behalf of everyone. So just say, for example, if somebody passed away in this community, so if no one prayed the Janazah Namaz, everyone just left the body, say in the morgue or whatever, left it to rot and so on, then fair enough, everyone will be sinful. Or if, say for example, they bathed the deceased, but no one bothered praying the Janazah Salah, and they go, look, we don't have time to pray Janazah, and they just bury the deceased, then fair enough, everyone would be sinful. However, within that community, if two people, because we're going to look at it later, there has to be a congregation for Janazah. And for congregation, there has to be two people. Okay, in Jummah, as I mentioned before, you need three people. But for Janazah Salah, you need the very least, come se come, there has to be two. So just say, for example, somebody passed away, but two people from that community just prayed the Janazah over the deceased, then in that situation, the obligation would be fulfilled on behalf of everyone. However, no one prayed the Janazah Salah, then every single individual would be considered sinful and gunagar for their actions. Okay? The second point.
Is that one imam and another person?
Yeah, one imam, another person, yeah. And the second point here is regarding congregation. Just there's a question mark there. That does Janazah Salah have to be performed in congregation, or can it be prayed individually? Now, the ruling or the masla is that it has to be done in congregation. There's no such thing as praying Janazah Salah by yourself. Okay, just say somebody passed away, you can't just go in front of the deceased and pray Janazah Salah individually. There has to be congregation. As I mentioned, congregation or Jamaat here means two people. The only exception, I'm not going to go into detail here, the only exception, as you probably know, was regarding Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's death and Janazah. Because for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam Janazah, it wasn't in a Jamaat or in a congregation. The Sahabas in a group of 10 went into Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's house, they prayed the Janazah, and then they left, and the next group of 10 people came, they prayed the Janazah, and then they went, and so on. So in a group, one individually or one by one, the Sahabas, they prayed the Janazah Salah over Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the only exception you'll find in hadith. But besides that, for anybody else, whether Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu, the Sahabas are thereafter, the Tabeens thereafter, and basically since Sahaba's time all the way until now, it's a unanimous opinion, overwhelming opinion of the scholars that for janazah, there has to be jamaat and congregation. You can't pray janazah salah by yourself. Okay, we look at it later. You know, if you miss a janazah salah, you can't just go in front of the deceased afterwards and just like pray janazah salah by yourself. You can't do that. If you miss the jamaat, that's it, you've gone. You can't pray janazah salah afterwards. Any question regarding this slide here? Okay, now the next slide here is, as I mentioned above, that to pray janazah salah is farz kifaya. It's a communal obligation. But who or upon whom janazah salah is obligatory? Okay, so there's 4 conditions here, because obviously we mentioned it's farz kifaya. So does that mean like a baby will have to go and pray janazah? You know, what are the conditions for or upon whom janazah salah is obligatory? Now, there are 4 conditions. Remember, what I mean here is for the individuals who are praying janazah. We're not talking about the deceased. That's coming up later. We're talking about there are 4 conditions which, if found, then it becomes farz kifaya on that person, on that individual, to pray the janazah salah. Now, what are the 4 conditions? Number 1 is he has to be sane. Okay, so if someone's mad or if someone's like got some mental illness, then janazah salah isn't obligatory upon him. The same way namaz isn't obligatory upon him, similarly janazah salah would not be obligatory upon him. Number 2, the second condition is adulthood, i.e. he has to be mature. So if there's an immature boy or a girl or a child and so on, they don't have to pray janazah salah. Okay, so the second condition is being mature. Number 3, being a Muslim, so that's obvious. So a non-Muslim cannot pray janazah salah over a Muslim deceased. What he can do, if he wants, he can attend the mosque. There's nothing wrong with that. Just say that could happen that a Muslim's passed away, so you get some non-Muslims, a colleague, so they could come to the mosque and they could, like, say for example, I know, stay at the back if they want, or stay in another room. But what they can't do is actually pray janazah salah. Are you following? There was actually somebody asked me this question recently, that I think one of his family members passed away. So I think he had some non-Muslim colleagues, so they also attended. They could attend the janazah, they could actually come in the masjid as well, they could sit down, but what they can't do is actually, you know, start praying salah, Allahu Akbar, and, you know, start following. They won't be allowed to do that, because one of the conditions for janazah salah is it has to be, the individual has to be a Muslim. And the 4th condition, which is very important, is there has to be knowledge of the death of the deceased. So you should know that the mayyit, or the person you're praying janazah salah for, he's passed away. I don't know if he's like, say, playing a game and he's just joking or something like that, he's not dead and so on, then you don't pray janazah salah. So the 4th condition is that there has to be death of the deceased. Now I mentioned 4 conditions there. There's one condition which, one clear or gaping condition I haven't mentioned. Can anybody think what it is? I haven't mentioned, meaning? Okay, I haven't mentioned anything about gender, have I? I haven't said men or women or anything like that. So from this, what we can understand that women can pray janazah salah. Okay, the reason why they don't come or they don't pray is because obviously our masajid don't provide the facilities. However, if they did provide the facilities, then there's nothing wrong in women praying janazah salah. It's very important. You need to keep this in mind, because unfortunately what happens is that you get what you call culture. You know, you get people, they're not scholars, but you know, they pretend to be like great shuyukhs and so on. So they give their own fatwas that women can't pray janazah salah and so on. They can pray janazah salah. Okay, the reason why we don't see them in the masajid is that's another issue, because there's no facilities for women to come to the masjid. But where there is facilities for women to come to the masjid, then there's nothing wrong in them praying janazah salah. Or just say for example in the haram, when you go to the haram or in Masjid Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and there's a announcement for janazah, so in that situation if they were to stand up and pray janazah salah, there's no problem in that. Okay, any questions? Or
I've heard all the time, you know, like the women can't do the janazah salah.
No, it's like, it's a cultural thing, and it's like
So what's all this imam is saying?
which imam?
A lot of imams say that
Chani, probably.
the woman can't do
I reserve judgment of comment. Okay.
From there now we can hear it, and like everybody was saying, like
Okay.
women are not allowed to.
The reason why they don't pray is because they don't come to the mosque. That's like another issue. But if they were there, they could pray janazah. You know, as I mentioned, there's only 4 conditions. There's no conditions about gender. So if they are there, like in Muslim Salah, or if the mosque is providing facilities for women, then there's no detestability in them praying janazah.
You know the Muslim center, cemetery, and so they got big facilities. They got women's facilities and men's.
Yeah, nowadays you see a lot of them, but in the olden days, you know, like you can see a lot of people saying all the schools. But what happens if somebody, a non-Muslim, goes into the Janazah Salah?
He could attend there, but he can't pray.
I've seen it on somebody passed away, and there was a lot of non-Muslims. But
they can't pray. They can't pray. They could just attend. There's nothing wrong attending and staying at the back somewhere, but they can't actually pray.
They're actually on the line. So
they shouldn't be praying. They shouldn't be praying.
So what happens if somebody?
You should tell them, but what you could tell them is that don't copy the action. Just like if you want to stand in the line and just like in your own way, want to remember the deceased, or like I don't know, 1 minute silence or something. You want to just be quiet, something like that. So, but they shouldn't be praying.
Should they be, if they are allowed to do that, Sheikh, should they be asked to stand at the right at the back, not in the middle?
Obviously they should be at the back, but if it's difficult to move them to the back, because if it's like a mosque and they say they're right in the middle, it's a bit rude sometimes to say, go to the back.
Right.
So if they're just next to you, then let them be next to you.
Can they see the face
of the
deceased?
We'll look at that later in the next week burial. After
too far.
we'll look at it next week.
Another Grand Mufti.
Place
the other man.
Okay, the next section is time of Janazah Salah. Okay, now basically this section tells us that basically when can we pray Janazah Salah. So as you can see, there's no fixed time in praying Janazah Salah, meaning that you can pray after Fajr Namaz, you can pray after Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, even Isha as well. You could pray Janazah, because remember there's no detestability in burying the deceased at night. Obviously that's another issue, whether you'll have the guts to go and bury at night time, but that's like another issue. But praying Janazah at night time, or even whatever time throughout the day, it's totally allowed, permissible. However, right at the bottom here, it's not permissible to pray Janazah Salah at sunrise time, sunset, and at when the sun is at its stationary point. And if you remember, probably many weeks ago now, or even months ago, when we were looking at the timings of Salah, or the haram times of Salah, so I mentioned that when the sun is at its stationary point, when the sun is setting or when the sun is rising, you're not allowed to pray any namaz at all, whether it's like Janazah, whether it's Sajda Tilawa, Nafal, you're not allowed to pray any Salah. So basically there's no fixed time of praying Janazah Salah, but just make sure that you don't pray during those 3 times. You don't even have to pray after a Farz namaz, by the way. Just say, for example, if you make an announcement that, okay, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to gather for Janazah, that's also okay as well. You don't even have to pray after congregation prayers. We do that because it's more convenient for everyone. But just say, for example, I don't know, if they're going to close the cemetery early, say, then in that situation, if you were to pray a bit earlier on in the morning, like 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, that is also allowed as well. Okay, the next slide here is regarding the conditions for Janazah Salah. Okay, so the 2 conditions, or the conditions which need to be found for Janazah Salah to be correct. Now we've split this up into 2 parts. Firstly, we're going to be looking at the conditions on the individuals performing Salah. Okay, so the guys who are praying Salah, the men or the women. So the conditions which needs to be found on them for Janazah Salah to be valid. And secondly, we're going to be looking at conditions regarding the deceased. Okay, because the deceased, the mayyit, there has to be certain conditions found before you can actually then bring him forward and pray the Janazah Salah. Like we're going to look at later, like for example, if the deceased is not there, like for example he passed away in another country, then you can't just pray Janazah Salah. So these kind of conditions which we'll look at. Okay. Okay, conditions for Janazah Salah. So he says on the individuals performing Salah, they are the same as the daily prayers, i.e. Tahara, Satri Awra, which means covering the private parts, facing the Qibla and intention. Okay, so basically the conditions which needs to be found on the individuals performing Salah is exactly the same conditions which are mentioned regarding the the prerequisites of Salah, such as making sure that you do wudu. Okay, you can't pray Janazah Salah without wudu. You need to have wudu. Can you remember I mentioned something, this is many again weeks and months ago. There is one situation where you can pray Janazah without wudu. Can you remember that situation?
Tayammum.
Yeah, tayammum. Yeah, so you can do tayammum, and that is when, say for example, you've come to the masjid or you've gone to the place where the Janazah is taking place, and you fear that if you were to go and do wudu, you're going to miss your Janazah Salah. So if you remember mentioning that situation, you quickly do tayammum and then join the congregation. But in a nutshell, there has to be tahara, there has to be purification. You can't pray Janazah without wuzu, without tayammum. Okay, the reason why this needs to be highlighted, because as you know, Janazah Salah is not like a normal daily prayer. So some may think, oh well, there's no need for us to have wudu. No, wuzu, being in the state of purification, tahara, is necessary. Satr Awra, it's Arabic word which basically means covering the private parts, facing the Qibla. So you have to face the Qibla when you pray Janazah Salah, and also making intention as well. We'll look at some of them later. The next slide, conditions regarding the deceased. Okay, so these conditions regarding the mayyit, the deceased, needs to be found before you could put him in front and you can pray his Janazah Salah. Now the first ruling here is regarding the deceased. He has to be a Muslim, so that's straightforward, which then leads us to a question. So any Muslim who passes away, you'll have to pray his Janazah Salah. Okay, then that leads to a question regarding how about those people who died as, shall we say, sinners. Yeah, like for example, they died as rebels. Okay, insurgents. They went against the Muslim leader, like in the case of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu, the way he was martyred, even to the extent Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, the way he was martyred and killed. So rebels, so somebody being a rebel, an insurgent, and whilst in the act of overthrowing the Muslim Imam and the leader, he dies. Robbers, okay, or just say for example, alcoholic, someone taking, I don't know, like intoxicants, taking an overdose, he passes away. Someone who commits suicide. So now the question is that, for these people, do you have to pray their Janazah namaz or not? Now, in the Hanafi fiqh, if you just write this, you may need to jot this down. Now, according to Imam Abu Hanifa and also Imam Shafi as well. Okay, so Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi, they are of the opinion that if somebody committed suicide, or he died committing a grave sin, something like rebelling, robbing, thieving, adultery, died in the state of intoxication, overdose, and so on, you will still pray his Janazah Salah. Okay, alright, fair enough, he died as a sinful believer, but you will bathe him, you will do his kafan, shrouding, and then you will pray his Janazah Salah. Okay, so this is what we say in the Hanafi fiqh, and also according to Imam Shafi rahimullah. Imam Ahmad is of the opinion that if somebody dies committing suicide, you don't pray his Janazah Salah. Okay, you don't pray his Janazah Salah. But according to Imam Sahib, he says that you pray his Janazah Salah. Now, the reason why some people differ regarding this is because there is a hadith which can be found in Sahih Muslim and Sunan at-Tirmidhi, that once somebody committed suicide during Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time, and the body was brought to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said to the companions that you pray Janazah over him, I am not going to pray Janazah over him. Okay, so because of that reason, some have said or interpreted that you don't pray Janazah Salah over someone who committed suicide. But when we analyze the hadith, the word Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used, he said, you pray the janazah. He said, I'm not going to pray janazah, but you pray the janazah. So from this we can understand that he didn't say, no, don't pray janazah. What did he say? He encouraged the sahabas to pray, but he didn't pray. And that's why you get some Hanafi ulamas or scholars saying that if somebody did commit suicide, you know, the imams or the leaders, they shouldn't pray the janazah over him. Yeah, but you know, the other people, they can pray the janazah namaz. Are you following? Because if the imam was to pray the janazah, then in a way you're kind of like, because you know, remember imam, his status is very, very high and he's a very dignified person. So the imam shouldn't be praying it, or the leader shouldn't be praying it, but the other people, they can pray. That's what some Hanafi scholars have said. But anyway, generally speaking, in the Hanafi, the ruling is somebody did commit suicide or committed bad sins, grave sins, and he passed away, you will still pray his janazah. As long as, remember, he passed away as a Muslim. As long as you know that, you know, he at least believed in, you know, La ilaha illallah, you know, wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah. As long as he believed in that, or if any of you may have been committed bad stuff and never prayed a single namaz, but as long as he kind of believed in La ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah, then you will pray his janazah salah. Any questions?
Even the imam.
Yeah, even the imam. Yeah, even the imam. Yeah. Any questions or? Okay. Okay. Number 2. Okay. So the second condition is the body and the shroud must be clean and pure. Okay. So the body, as I mentioned, that there has to be a ghusl done before. Okay, so just say, for example, somebody's passed away and you know that no one's performed ghusl over the individual, then there is no janazah salah. So you have to do ghusl of the deceased, and also make sure that the shroud, the coffin, is also pure and clean as well. Number 3, the body of the deceased should be covered. Okay, so that's also another condition as well. The body of the deceased should be covered. Number 4, placed in front of those offering salah. Okay, so the 4th condition, remember these are regarding the deceased, the mayyit himself, is that he should be placed in front. Right, shouldn't be somewhere behind on the side. He shouldn't, obviously if he's not there, then you can't pray the janazah, but he has to be in front of the deceased for the janazah to be valid and correct. Now this then takes me on to the next question here, which you may need to jot down the answer. Is it permissible to offer janazah salah in the masjid? Okay, so in the masjid, remember we talked about masjid word before. Masjid here means the jamaat khana, the prayer room. So if you want to take the example of this masjid here, so do you know in that area there where the green carpet is, so to actually put the coffin there and the imam praying janazah salah, so what is the ruling regarding that? Now in the Hanafi fiqh, it's quite clearly mentioned that it is makruh tahrimi, severely disliked, to pray janazah salah inside the masjid. I'll mention the rulings and then I'll mention like what contemporary Hanafi scholars say nowadays. But in the Hanafi fiqh, when you look at the classical books, it says that to bring the mayyit or the deceased inside the masjid and then to pray janazah salah is considered to be makruh, severely disliked, makruh tahrimi. Okay. Now, does anybody know why do you think it will be makruh, or why did the jurists or the fuqaha say that it's makruh tahrimi to pray janazah salah inside the masjid? Does anybody like to have a guess even? Your brother there?
People be scared after like.
No, I'm not scared.
It's only you.
Okay, now the reason why is that there's a danger that some impurity may come out of the deceased. Okay. Obviously you probably have a question of, well, there's a coffin and stuff. Remember we're talking about in those days when they never used to have the coffin. They used to actually bring the deceased, obviously they would cover his body in front of the imam, and then the imam would lead the prayer. So there was a danger that sometimes what could happen is that some kind of like urine may come out of his private parts and then drip down the table and onto the masjid carpet or onto the masjid floor. So because of that reason, the classical fuqaha, the classical Hanafi scholars have said that it's makruh tahrimi to pray janazah salah inside the masjid. And there's also a hadith as well which can be found in Sahih al-Bukhari, hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, where everybody knows Najashi, the emperor of Ethiopia, So when he passed away, it's mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered the Sahabas and companions to leave the masjid, like go outside and let's pray the Janazah Salah and so on. So that is one of our evidence, one of the evidence of the Hanafi fiqh, that you should pray the Janazah Salah outside somewhere. Okay. So as I said, that's what the classical Hanafi books say, that you should pray Janazah Salah outside. Two things here before we go into what the contemporary scholars say. Can we pray, or can we say, for example, have the Janazah, have the coffin, say not in the Jamaat Khana, but just say in the, like in Commentary Row, what they do, like they don't have it inside the mosque, but there is a passage outside the minbar. Obviously those have been Commentary Row, we know. So they place the Janazah there, and then they have the imam inside the masjid. So is that allowed or not? So in the Hanafi fiqh, again, there's two opinions. One opinion says that it's okay. Other opinion says no, it's still makruh and it's still disliked. Okay, so that's regarding that. Now going back to the third point, which I want to mention about what the contemporary scholars say. Now, some of the contemporary Hanafi scholars have said that if in a community or area where it's not possible to pray Janazah Salah outside, okay, in Smedik it shouldn't be a problem because you have that car park there, so you know you've got like an open space, so it's okay. But in an area where it's not possible, let's say you don't have any open space, you can't, there's no parks nearby, there's no kind of like, you know, wide spacious land. So in an area where there's no space, then in that situation it will be permissible to pray Janazah Salah inside the masjid. So you can actually bring the coffin into the masjid and you can actually pray Janazah Salah there. Okay, it's more preferable, like you do here, you know, pray Janazah Salah outside. If you got space as well, it's best to pray outside. However, you know, there may be certain areas where it's not possible to pray Salah outside. So in that situation, if you were to bring the coffin inside the masjid and pray Salah there, then it will be allowed. And the reason why, as I was explaining before, is because one of the reasons why the jurists said that you shouldn't pray or you shouldn't bring the deceased inside the masjid is because there's a danger that something impure may come out. But nowadays, because the deceased is inside the coffin, so even if something did come out of his private part, it's not going to come out and drip onto the masjid carpet. Why? Because it's in the coffin. Okay, so that danger isn't there anymore. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that obviously try to pray outside, that's more preferable. However, lack of space or other kind of, I don't know, council issues, you know, and so on and so forth, if they don't allow you to pray outside for one reason or the other, and there's no other space available, then you can pray the Janazah inside the masjid. You could actually bring it in the Jamaat Khana. Again, it's preferable that if you were to say bring it to a community room, like let's say this hall here, and then pray the Janazah, that'd be more better. But if there was no other space there, then to actually bring in the Jamaat Khana and pray the Janazah, that would be allowed and permissible. Any question regarding what I just explained here?
Would it be excused if there's like bad weather?
Yeah, bad weather, yeah. Yeah, that's like another good, yeah. Bad weather, if it's snowing or something, or if it's really raining hard, then you can. Okay, the next point, the body of the deceased should be placed on the ground. Okay, so the body of the deceased, he should be placed on the ground. Okay, now this is, it's not a requirement, but it's good practice that you should have it. Is that namaz?
Allahu Akbar.
Sit there if you want.
I would like to sit there.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulil kareem. Amma ba'd, fawdu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now, before namaz, we were looking at point number 5, and I mentioned that one of the conditions for Janazah Salah to be valid and accepted, and these conditions, remember, relate to the deceased and the mayyit, is that the body of the deceased should be placed on the ground. Now, what I mean by on the ground here, either actually on the ground itself or on some kind of like table, that would be okay. What you can't do is have the deceased, say, in the car, or say, like, for example, on other kind of transport. So you can't have it say on a transport, or like as mentioned in the books of fiqh, like have it on top of a camel or an animal, and then you pray janazah salah in front of it. That would not be allowed. The janazah, the deceased, has to be on the ground, or the very least something like on a table or on the coffin. That's okay. So that's what it means by point number 5. And the 6th point, which is again a very important condition in the Hanafi fiqh, is that the deceased should be physically present. I.e., if the deceased, just say somebody's passed away in Bangladesh, Pakistan, you can't pray Gaibana Janazah Salah, where Gaibana Janazah Salah basically means that the guy's not there, the deceased not there, then you pray the Janazah Salah. That's not allowed in the Hanafi fiqh. So basically the deceased, he has to be there, physically present there in front of the Imam for the Janazah Salah to be valid and correct. Okay, any conditions or any questions? Sorry, not conditions.
So how about if a ship sank, many people died, they went down, so then what? Titanic.
Okay. Yes, so if you can recover the body afterwards, then you recover the body, you then give them a ghusl, and then you pray janazah salah over them. If you can't recover the body, then that's it, you don't pray janazah. Okay, now before we look at the next section regarding the farais of Salatul Janazah, if you could just write the following information down regarding what to do if there are multiple bodies or multiple janazahs or multiple coffins, then who to place who, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Now remember, the boy or the male, they should be placed in front of the imam. So even if it's a boy coffin passed, just say if a young boy's passed away, so you should have the boy in front of the imam, and then after the male or the boy, then it will be the women and the female. Okay, so that's the tartib, the sequence. If there's multiple janazas of men and women, that you have the men first, and then you'll have the women after the men. And if there's just like say 2 men or male janazas, then obviously you just have 2 in front of the imam, and that would be sufficient. Okay, now let's have a look at this slide here. The farais of Salatul Janazah. Now what do you mean by farais here? There's no connection with fries or anything, but what do you mean by farais? Anik, is the connection with fries or? No, okay. Alright, anybody farais, what does that mean? We did this before.
Obligatory.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, the compulsory acts of Salatul Janazah. Yeah. Yeah, farz. Yeah, very good. So it's the plural of the word farz. So basically the obligatory acts, the compulsory acts of Salatul Janazah, what are they? Now there's actually 2. Number 1 is saying Allahu Akbar 4 times. Doing the takbir 4 times, Allahu Akbar. And number 2, the standing position qiyam. Okay. Obviously someone's like ill or poorly or disabled and so on, obviously you could sit down. But those who are able to stand, capable of stand, they have to stand for their Janazah Salah. So they will have to stand for Janazah Salah. And also number 2, they have to say Allahu Akbar 4 times. Now I've actually on purpose, this word has been mentioned on purpose here, saying, not raising the hands. Because as we're going to look at later, you don't have to raise your hands for each of the takbir. You should say the Allahu Akbar 4 times, yeah? Okay, you should say the Allahu Akbar 4 times, but there's no need for you to actually raise the hands when it comes to Janazah Salah. Okay? The sunnah of Janazah Salah is hamd, praising Allah. Number 2, reciting durood. And number 3, praying for the deceased. Okay, now we'll look at that in a bit more detail here. Okay, the next slide. The method of performing Salatul Janazah. So this is like the method of, I'm sure everybody knows how to pray, but just like recap here. So firstly, you place the deceased in front. Okay, then you make an intention. Okay, now intention, we're going to look at in the next slide. You don't have to say in Arabic, like they teach in, like in the Bengali mosque and so on, Nawaitu an usalli and so on. So you don't have to say in Arabic here. In whichever language, in English, Urdu, Bengali even, whatever, if you make the intention, then that would be sufficient. So if you make the intention that I am praying Janazah Salah of a male deceased behind the Imam, or if you're the Imam, you just make the intention, I'm praying Janazah Salah of a male deceased, Allahu Akbar, that would be sufficient.
Do you have to know the gender?
No, you don't have to even know the gender.
Or is it a number?
That would be sufficient, yeah. You should know whether it's mature or immature, because I'm going to look at later, there's different du'as. But even if you didn't know whether it's immature or mature, just say you came late, you don't know whether it's a boy or a mature man or woman passed away, then in that situation, you just read the normal dua, Allahumma gfir li hayyina mayyitina, for both, that would be sufficient. Okay, so you make the intention. Thereafterwards, you say Allahu Akbar, yeah? Now remember, for the first takbir, because it's takbir tahrima, you have to raise your hand. So you say Allahu Akbar, okay? And then after that, you then recite Thana. Okay, Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa tabaraka asmuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruk. Okay, so you read the Thana. There are some hadiths of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reading Surah Fatiha, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And some of our Hanafi scholars have said that if somebody can read Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, if it's done with the intention of dua. Okay, so you can actually read, it's not that strict or that staunch that you can't read Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen after the first takbir. You should read Thana, but if somebody did read Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Surah Fatiha, that would be sufficient. The next point, takbir without raising the hand. Then you say Allahu Akbar. So sorry, you don't raise your hands here, but you say Allahu Akbar, yeah, without raising the hands. And then you read Durood, Durood Ibrahim, or any Durood Sharif. We normally read Durood Ibrahim. Then afterwards you say Allahu Akbar again. Again, no raising the hands. You say Allahu Akbar. Okay, you say Allahu Akbar. And then you pray for the deceased. Okay, so prayer for the deceased. So the prayer which we're going to look at later. Allahumma gfir li hayyina wa mayyitina wa shahidina, and so on. And then you do takbir again. Takbir like Allahu Akbar. And then you just give salam to the right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay, this is the, yeah, right and left. Just one masla here is that you probably see some people when they do salam, they go like this, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and they leave there. Okay, you could do both. You could actually leave your arms folded, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, or you could actually drop your right arm, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So both are allowed. You could do both. Okay. Any questions regarding the actual prayer itself?
So can you summarize that again?
Okay, summarize. Yeah, basically, you say Allahu Akbar. Yeah, then you say Subhanakallahumma good. No, you don't raise your hands again. You just say Allahu Akbar. And then you read Durood Ibrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad kama sallaita. Oh, yeah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim. Durood Ibrahim, which we read in namaz. Yeah, without raising your hand. Then you do the dua for the deceased, which we'll look at the next slide. Allahumma gfir li hayyina.
The dua, is that a font of the font?
No, not really. No.
So
if you didn't know, if you just say any dua, even if you didn't know that, so if you just read any dua like Rabbana Atina, yeah, or something, or that's okay. Any dua, that would be okay.
If you said no dua, would that count?
Even if you didn't say no dua, that's okay, because I mentioned there's two things which are farzani, the four takbeers and the standing. So even if you just didn't know anything at all and just were quiet, that would be okay as well. Okay, method of performing, okay, intention. Yeah, so these are just some of the recite Thana. So these are, you read Thana, everybody knows that. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika wa tabaraka asmuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa jalla thana'uka wa la ilaha ghayruk. Method of performing Salatul Janazah, Durood. So this is the Durood Ibrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita. I'm sure everybody knows this one. Just go to the next one. Okay, dua for adults. Yeah, so if a mature man or a mature woman was to pass away, then you read the following dua. You see that clearly? Allahumma gfir li hayyina wa mayyitina wa shahidina wa ghaibina wa saghirina wa kabirina wa dhakarina wa unthana. I'm sure everybody knows this dua, yeah? And the dua for boys and girls. Okay, so if a young boy or a young girl was to pass away, then read this dua. Allahumma, the first one is for a boy. Allahumma ij'alhu lana farataw waj'alhu lana ajraw wa dhukhra waj'alhu lana shafi'aw wa mushaffa'a. And then for a girl, you just add the word ha at the end. So Allahumma ij'alha lana faratan waj'alha lana ajraw wa dhukhra waj'alha lana shafi'atan wa mushaffa'a. Okay. Next section. Sorry. Dua for a female. It's the same as Allahumma gfir li hayyina mayyitina. For adults, whether it's man or a woman, it's that dua Allahumma gfir. There's only difference for boy and girl.
You know the Salah you mentioned at the top, did you recite that different?
there was this extra wajalla sana. Well, you could add that on. It doesn't. You could just read the one we read for namaz. That's also sufficient as well.
For children, if one doesn't know specific dua, can they just read normal dua? Allah.
Yeah. That's
Would
okay.
it make any difference or?
No, you should read the children dua, but if say for example if you don't know, then that's okay also. Okay, next section, rules for masbook and lahik. Okay, now if you remember, I did touch on this topic many moons ago. What does masbook mean? Anyone?
Latecomer.
Yeah, very good, latecomer. And lahik, I mentioned this as well. Lahik, who's a lahik?
Is it when you made salah but you have to go on?
Yeah, you have to go, like for example, you're in namaz and then you break your wudu. So now obviously, common question, because sometimes what could happen is two rulings here, because obviously sometimes what could happen is a person's joined the janazah salah late. You know, just say the imam's done 2 takbeers, Allahu Akbar, and then a latecomer's coming and he's joining the janazah salah. Sometimes it could happen, I don't know, he didn't realize that there was janazah after the first, so he started the sunnah. So after he finishes sunnah, he then quickly joins the janazah salah. So how would he make up the missed takbeers? And lastly, who is a lahik and how does a lahik complete his missed takbeers and so on. So masbook we've already looked at. Now the second part of the question is, how does a masbook make up the missed takbeers? Now the answer is simple. What would happen is that after the imam does salam to the right and left, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, do you know the latecomer, the masbook, however many takbeers he missed, he will just say Allahu Akbar, and then finish off the namaz by himself. He doesn't say anything, you know, any hamd or any du'as or praise. He would not say that in between. So however many takbeers he missed, so if he missed 2 takbeers, so after the imam does salam to the right and left, he would just say Allahu Akbar by himself, and then just assalamu alaikum. So he'll just finish off the janazah by himself. Okay, so basically if you just add this on, write this down, that masbook, the way he would do his missed takbeers is basically after the imam does his salam, he will just say the missed takbeers. There's no need for him to, like, you know, however many, just say if he missed, say, the thana, there's no need for him to say Allahu Akbar and then read thana and then Allahu Akbar and then read the dua. Whatever he missed, he will just say Allahu Akbar and then just to give salam to the right and left, and that would be sufficient. Okay. And who is a lahik? So and how does a lahik complete his takbir? So what do you think? How do you think a lahik will do his takbir? It's similar to the way he completes his namaz. What does he do? I mentioned, like, let's say if somebody was there at the beginning, and just say in the middle he went to do his wudu, and then he came back, say in the second rakat of the imam. So what does he do? Does anybody know?
Quickly catch up.
Yeah, very good. He catches up. So similarly with a lahiki as well, that he will actually catch up with the imam. If that does that make sense? Like, just say for example, he did 1 takbir with the imam. He read thana. Now whilst he was reading thana, he broke his wudu. So what does he do? He goes, say, back of the masjid or somewhere outside. He quickly does his tayammum, because I mentioned before you can do tayammum in that situation. He comes back. Now by the time he comes back, just say the imam's on the 3rd takbir, or just say for argument's sake the imam's finished. So what will he do? He will then rejoin the janazah. He will do takbir, and the main difference between him and the masbook, he will actually, well, what would he do? He will actually read something now in the takbir. You know, the lahik, he will actually read something. Because remember, he's catching up. Yeah, so he's catching up. So just say he missed 2 takbirs here whilst he went to do his tayammum. So when he now comes back, he will say Allahu Akbar. He will read Durood Ibrahim, Allahu Akbar. He will read the dua, and then he will finish off. If that means that the imam finished before, that doesn't matter. But he will actually read. He will have to read something. Whereas a masbook doesn't read anything. Everybody happy with that? Everybody understood the?
What if someone doesn't know at what point he
Yeah, he'll just have to, like, just use a bit. Yeah, just like, yeah, work it out, if that makes sense. However many missed or whatever, you just have to work it out like that.
And you find out, so if you find out at the end, do you just do another one?
No, you can't do another one. Yeah.
Well, if you find out at the end, I mean, I've done.
Then that's it, it's gone. Because we mentioned at the beginning that there's no congregation for janazah. So you can't. Yeah, there is congregation for janazah. You can't pray janazah individually by yourself. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So when he comes back, if he finds out that it's finished completely,
Who we're talking about? The masbook, are we? The lahik.
Lahik.
Yeah, he will just read it by himself then.
By himself, okay. So
He could, because remember he was there for the beginning, so he could like catch on to it or linger onto that rope, if that makes sense. But someone who's masbook, who missed it completely, if he comes and then he missed it, that's it. He's got nothing to hold on to.
Okay.
So he's missed it, that's it, he's gone.
After the janazah, everyone dispersed, so he will just come and...
Yeah, just yeah. The lahi could do that, yeah, because he was there for the very beginning. Okay, any questions? Okay, I think that's it. Okay, any questions or?